Hello guys, it's Jonathan. We're attempting another Beyblade discussion. So this is probably going to be a pretty stupid discussion for a lot of people, but it's something I've kind of wanted to make for a few years now. And now that Burst is over, it seems like a pretty good idea to do this now. So basically, I have a problem with colors in Beyblade Burst, and yes, I know this is a really dumb topic, but let me explain. So, when you look at this line of base, right? The original single layer base. I think they look pretty good. And I do think that Burst maybe could have done a little better in general overall, but I think at the start they did pretty well with colors, which is nice. As you can see, there's a lot of different base here, a lot of different colors, very cool. But as Burst went on, I think it just got worse. I think basic layer, or well, basic single layers, whatever you want to call them, dual layers, and then also the God line, I think all of those did pretty well. Maybe a slight dip with God, but whatever. Chose is where I really started to notice a bit of a dip in how they were utilizing colors, and then it got worse in GT. Then I think Sparking and DB have both definitely been not great with it. That doesn't mean that the designs are bad, or that the bays themselves are using colors incorrectly with how they're matching them and stuff. I just mean as a line, when you look at bays, again, just as a whole line, I just think that there's too many colors that repeat constantly. We see a lot of white and black, but I don't think that's that big of a deal. They're both neutral colors. I get it. I would like to see them maybe stray away from it a little bit. But that's whatever. There's too much red and blue, though. They really need to stop making so many red and blue bays when they kind of just always underutilize other colors like, green or yellow. Two other very prominent colors that don't get used very often. And then also, there's just gold on everything. Why? So, basically, originally I was going to compare every single line of bays, but that would be like a 3-hour long video, and I'm like, maybe if people want me to go super in depth and like talk about like color theory or something, which I don't think many people would actually care to see that, but let me know if I should do an expanded version of this. I don't imagine I will, but yeah, so I guess two things for this video to bring up before we really get into everything. First, I'm only covering two lines. I'm covering the original single layers and then also the final system with DB/BU. Again, I think that, single layers were kind of in the best category, while DB has been in the worst category for how they're kind of using colors overall. So I'll just stick to these two lines and talk about them, and hopefully you can kind of see what I mean by the end of it. The second thing to mention is that while I will cover discs and drivers and talk about them a little bit, layers are the main focus here. Layers are mainly what I'm talking about here. Discs I probably won't mention very often unless it's a painted disc and I'm just like, hey, that's cool, but like, not a big deal. Drivers will mostly just be for the sake of comparison. So yeah. Anyway, let's start off with the basic layers right here. So, also yes, I probably will use basic layer and single layer, so it's just interchangeably, but looking at this line, again, it's pretty different. So I'm actually gonna break this line down into colors. We'll cut the video for that when we get there. But again, there's a lot of different stuff going on, but you can definitely see some repeat colors here. But I think that there is a reason to why you can get away with this back then. And while this is definitely the smallest line of bays, at least by a little bit, that works both to its benefit and also kind of a negative, because if they reuse a color, there's not as many slots, so it's, just more, especially if they use a color like 3 times or something, that's a lot more of the line in terms of percentage than, if there's like 25 bays. But it is an advantage because, well, less bays means that you have more, less bays. You use different colors a lot easier because, well, there's just a lot of them at this point that are good for making bays. So, yeah, alright, let's go ahead and just get into this so I can really go in depth. We're already almost 5 minutes in. Oh god. Alright, let's do this. Alright, so I'm going to be kind of just moving bass as we go. I tried it earlier. It didn't flow as well, so otherwise I have to like constantly cut the video, and I don't know, I feel like it just didn't flow as well as a discussion. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of move bass around as we need, and I will just place them on the camera. to talk about them, and I will talk about them as I'm moving them around as well, but yeah. So, looking at these are the blue bays, right? And I think what's immediately obvious with these three, they're all different types of blue, and I think that's actually kind of important, and this is something that I think we've gotten wrong with later generations. We notice that Valkyrie is blue. This is not a new idea, but Valkyrie's blue, right? And I feel like whatever blue Valkyrie uses, usually just kind of a standard, maybe slightly darkish blue, is usually the blue that we see just used again and again throughout the generation, or well, not generation, the season, right? It's like always the same type of blue. In recent seasons, this has just been the case. We will talk about DB later, and I will show what I mean, but for now, you know, the other two bays, they are not the same blue. Horasude is a much darker blue, so you can just see here. They're pretty different. This is just a normal blue, this is a very dark blue. And then Neptune's like a teal. Like, they're all different. But what also separates them is their drivers, is because they're all different blues, but hey, we have this blue driver, an orange driver, and then like this reddish, like a neon red driver. They're all very different, and I think that's what really works well here, is that yes, we have 3 blue bays in a 17 bay line, but they're all very different. None of these really seem overly similar to each other, which I think is a great thing. You know? So there you go. All very different, which is nice. And we're gonna... And I'm mainly just doing this as like a comparison, and so I'm gonna kind of go a little bit quicker through these single layer bays, but yeah. Next up we have the 2 red bays of the line. So, Spriggan and Excalibur. Okay. Excalibur you could argue is gold because, you know, the underneath is gold and then the sword is gold, but like, if you were to just be an average person to look at this, you'd say its main color is red, right? So we're gonna go off of that. So this is just Spriggan's just a regular, you know, red bay. It's whatever, you know, it's just kind of there. While Excalibur, very unique, translucent red that, you know, encompasses most of the bay, plus a gold sword. These are very different, obviously. Even like the shade of red, even though this is translucent, they're still, this is definitely darker. Drivers, dark red, blue with a little bit of red. Like, these are not comparable color schemes, I don't think. At least, aside from them just using red, I don't think these are very similar at all. Next up, our last primary color here, yellow. One of the least used colors in Beyblade. I believe Trident and its evolution Screw Trident, as well as Maximum Garuda, were like the only mainline bays to ever really use it. And yes, I'm just talking about mainline bays here, of course, but yeah. Trident, it's yellow, some yellow underneath. Nothing to compare it to. It's just nice to have a yellow bay in the line, which, again, we just never really saw very much of. Green bays we actually do have a couple of. We have Kirbyus and Yggdrasil. And I believe this is the only line, well, I guess this in dual layers, because both had Kirbyus and Yggdrasil, but these are the only, like, lines of bays to have more than one green bay, which is, something. So Kirbyus is a bit more of a, you know, normal green, a little bit lighter, while this one is a very, very dark green for Yggdrasil. Plus you have a little bit of yellow here. And then when you flip them over, that makes sense as well. This is very dark green, this has yellow. Again, these are definitely pretty different color schemes, I would say. So that's always nice to see. Moving on to orange. Just Ragnarok, it's orange, yellow driver. Nothing to say, it's just, you know, it's an orange bay. These aren't too uncommon, because Ragnarok is a pretty common bay. Wyvern, purple, have a teal driver. Kind of teal anyway, I guess, but... Yep, purple bay. Cool. Unique to this line. Well, not unique to this line, but unique for this line, I guess I should say. Now we get to white. This is probably the closest comparison we have. Unicorn and Chaos. Kind of. So Chaos is weird because it was originally a random layer collection prize layer. Got re-released here, and it's much different. At the very least, though, this is more of a regular white on Unicorn. This is kind of a more pearlescent white on Chaos. So they're a little bit different, but still. Yeah, there's a little bit like sky blue here, and you got the purple in the eyes, and Well, when you turn them over, they're very different, which is at least something. Even if you just say that these are both white and like kind of the same color, opposed to like blue, which is very different. Turning them over, you can see their color schemes are, aside from that, very different. And it is fine to reuse the same color as long as they're, kind of deviating the color schemes to make them a little bit more unique per bay, right? And you can see this just has a regular disc. This is kind of a copper-ish disc. And then the drivers, green and brown. On the top, they are like somewhat similar looking in color schemes, but like obviously there's some differences, and then you flip them over, completely different, right? That's something. That's also if you're just assuming that this is the normal chaos and not taking into account this chaos, which these are not even close. The white is actually a little bit closer here compared to the other one because it's not pearlescent. But it's a translucent black on top. It's completely different now, right? So that's cool. Speaking of black, we have Death Scyther, the only regular bay that is primarily black, purple driver as well, which is cool. But again, if you throw in this layer, they're very different. This has, the clear plastic on top, black underneath. This is just translucent black plastic with white underneath. They're very, very different bays. These layers, I think, the color schemes, they do a good enough job at, differentiating it. So I think, again, even if you want to say these are the main bays, Death Scyther, and this is the main chaos. Different enough, right? And then we have the more, I guess, unique colors. I guess two of these aren't as unique, but I'll also mention them really quick. Odin, kind of a silver-ish, or like a light gray with this blue driver. Pretty cool. We don't see many of these types of color schemes on layers. Odin, Kronos, not really much else, so yeah. Amaterios, a golden bay. We don't always see bays that are fully gold as often. It's more so a problem as a secondary color, but hey, this is a fully gold bay, uses some red disc, gold driver. And while I know I mentioned, gold and red are problematic color schemes, I do think here it works fine. And again, even if you want to bring up gold and red with Excalibur, I mean, come on, these are very, very different color schemes. They don't really share a lot, because this is just so much red, a little bit of gold, a lot of gold, a little bit of red. And the driver colors, they're different, and I think this is fine. Something like this is fine because they aren't super similar color schemes, or at the very least, they flipped things around pretty well, I would say. Then we have the last two bays, which I think are just perfect. Minoboros is brown, has a red disc, and this kind of weird indigo driver. Come on, this is, like, we don't see anything like this ever. Minoboros is the only bay to be brown. And it's just this one and Mad Minoboros, that's it. Clearly a very unique bay, and I wish they would have done more with things like this, It was just something else to have, which is nice. And then Evil Eye is more of a magenta. Again, Evil Eye is really the only bay to do this. And of course it's Evolution Exceed Evil Eye. Aside from that, like, there's Hell Salamander, which kind of uses it, but, like, it's not really as crazy. This definitely uses it a lot better. Got the green driver. I think this is just a really nice color scheme in general. Also, one thing to mention is, while they all are very different color schemes, they all had kind of the clear plastic on top, all of these single layers, which kind of brings them together in a way, shows that they're from the same line in, I think, a pretty cool way. But also, they all seem very different, but they work well as a unit as well. Like, I know there's a lot of ways to tell what system a bay's from. Like, okay, DB bays have kind of the colored pieces on the cores, kind of on the outside. It is uniform in a sense, but I just really like how these are. This is more of a personal preference, and I just want to mention that, but yeah. Again, I think the color schemes here are all really nice and cool. So now let's talk about DB. Alright, so now we have the full DB line out here. And BU line, whatever. They're all DB bays, right? So there are a couple extra bays in here that some people might not consider main line, but I do. Astral Hello Kitty and also the BU version of Ultimate Valkyrie. These actually work more towards the benefit of this line, especially Hello Kitty. We'll get into that later, but when you look at this line as a whole, what do you notice? I think a lot of people will probably pick up a lot of reds and blues, a lot of gold just on most bays here, which is annoying. But yeah, a lot of colors. I mean, there's definitely a lot of colors, and definitely these bays have to use colors, more often. because, they don't just use one color for the layer anymore, or maybe two colors if they get crazy. All these bays are a lot more dynamic, there's a lot more to them, they're using more colors, but that's not really an excuse to use, like, the same shade of, like, blue, like, 6 times, you do a little bit more with that. Let's just go ahead and break it down like I did with the original and kind of talk about, well, okay, I can't talk apparently. Let's go ahead and break this down like I did with the single layers. There we go, it's a more proper sentence there. But yeah, let's go ahead and do that to just talk about each color individually. Alright, I just went ahead and put the blue ones here, but yeah. Let's look at the blue bays. I think you can immediately notice that these are a lot less different from one another. I will say that Wind Knight did a pretty good job at being a little bit more of kind of a baby blue in a way. A little bit lighter, it's different, When you look at these, like Savior Valkyrie and Ultimate Valkyrie, they're both just pretty basic blues. You can maybe argue that Savior's like a shade or two darker, but they're not really crazy different. Ultimate Valkyrie from the BU version, like, it's better. They use more clear here, which is cool. These are at least different enough, right? They do a little bit different. Not crazy, but it's something. Also, King Helios MR, it's just a translucent blue. But again, it's a pretty basic blue when you compare it to these. It's translucent, yes, but there's not a whole lot else going on with that. This line's actually kind of a mess. Anyway, so they're not like the same exact blue, but I feel like the problem is that it's not really an overly different blue, aside from like Wind Knight, but even Wind Knight, it's not like a crazy difference. There's no like really dark blues here, like the closest, like, I don't know, maybe like BU Ultimate's kind of dark, it's also like translucent, sure. There's no teal base here. You could maybe have gone with like a sky blue or something. This is like the closest we really get to anything like that. But it's just like very slight shade differences between them. But also, when you look into their secondary colors, this is where the problem really starts to pick up for me. A lot of these bases use gold. Both Ultimates, Savior, a lot of gold. They're the same line, but then you have a little bit on Knight here. Also, they use like kind of a silver paint. We don't really see that on Ultimate, but we see that on Savior, the BU Ultimate with these parts here, Knight, Helios, and while I know this is, some people might say I'm stretching here, but still, like, do we need it on all of the bays? And then, like, red, okay, the Valkyrie line, it's a self-contained line, right? They all use red, and this line, Savior's is even darker than these two, but then Knight has a little bit of red, Helios has a little bit of red, they're, like, the same type of dark-ish red, which we also see, like, on all the Valkyrie cores, they're all nearly the same red. Did that need to be the same? Not really. Could they have maybe changed it up to not use red on every single one of these bays? Probably should have. And then even when you flip these all over and look at their drivers, look at this. Every single one, except for Knight's, is blue. And again, Knight gets off the best here because it is like the most unique of them. Has yellow on the disc and the green driver. Pretty cool. But like, Shot and Zeal are almost the same blue. Excel Dash is a little bit darker, but like it's not by a ton. It's just like a couple shades maybe. And then okay, yeah, Variable Dash is a little bit darker, but like the fact that 4 of the 5 of these are all just blue of some sort, like why? Why are there no other colors? Why are like, and even if red is more of a detail color on these cores, like again, aside from the rubber, just looking at the cores themselves, there isn't like a ton of red on all of these, but like, why is it all almost the same shade of red? Why couldn't they have used colors a little better? Why not just exclude red from some of these bays? Again, the Valkyrie line I'm less harsh on here, and I'm not as harsh on blue as I'm about to be with red, but like, we didn't need these color schemes to be as close as they are. Why not have, like, even like purple, even though blue and purple are pretty similar colors, why not just make it crazy, maybe a lighter blue with a darker purple or something? Why not go down that route? It's not inherently bad that there's 5 blue bays, even though that is a lot, but like when you see, 5 of 24 of them are blue for the DB line, 3 of 17 were for the single layers, but they used it a lot more effectively, and the drivers are different colors, each blue was different. Even if the Valkyrie line was similar, that's one thing, because, it's the same line, but we didn't need every bay. Even Valkyrie, they probably could have done a little more with, but I won't be as harsh. Let's talk more with the red bays. We'll have a little bit more fun with this. So I think the blue bays are a little bit weird because 3 of them are Valkyries, but I still think Helios and Knight could have been a little better. And okay, let's do these guys because I think they're interesting to say the least. The red ones. The red ones, I have some problems with these. So, okay. Probably noticing that there are a lot of similar reds going on here. Some translucent reds. They're translucent red. Okay. Now, 2 of these are Spriggans, to be fair. And also one argument I should probably just talk about now. You could also, argue, some of these bays, they've been around for, all these bays have existed before DB. All of these have existed since, Sparking at the very least. Well, Hyperion's really the only one. Phoenix and Achilles have been around since Chosets, and then Spriggan, which accounts for 2 of the bays here, and Excalibur have been around since, the start of Burst. But they didn't need to make the prevalent characters all have these basic colors and reuse the same one. Why not have a prevalent character with a yellow bay or something? So they kind of did this to themselves by making this many prominent red bays. But anyway. So Astral and Burst use a pretty similar red. Burst, I think, is a little bit lighter, which I actually prefer. Especially on the core here. A little bit different. But again, it's not... The fact that we're using slight shade differences as a difference here, not great. Zest is also not much different here either, with the red. The core, I mean, I actually say this is more comparable to, Burst here. You just tell the reds, they're not a whole lot different. And then, the translucent base. Okay, this red isn't, a crazy different shade from the others. Excalibur and Phoenix, when you compare the reds, they're pretty similar. And then, with Hyperion, actually Phoenix is probably a better comparison here. I'm out of sorts, let me... Okay, there we go. Correct positioning, but yeah. Phoenix and Hyperion, these are relatively similar reds. And I'm actually being nicer to Spriggan here because I have it in their legend modes, which gives more black instead of gold. So when you flip them over, you can just see a lot more gold. We don't need more gold. So I'm actually being a little bit nicer to these. But yeah, the secondary colors, you still see that they use gold here, gold, some gold here, gold. All red, all 6 red bays use gold. There's only 2 Spriggans here. Even if you want to make the argument that Spriggan's secondary color is gold, which is already kind of annoying, but whatever, right? But the fact that there's 4 other different motifs that are red, primarily, and kind of a similar red at that, why are they all using gold? They don't all need gold. Achilles never really needed gold. It could have just been, you could have kept going with the silver, maybe use something different instead of gold here for the handles. And on the core, I mean, I guess it used gold from the start, so they kind of already dug that hole for themselves. Phoenix really did not need this gold. And I will say Phoenix gets off the best here, because it does use some orange on the core. It's kind of a clear yellow. Unfortunately, this is gold, but yeah. They probably could have avoided this on Phoenix and just used a more proper yellow and then, orange to do everything. Maybe some black, referencing Dead Phoenix. They could have done a little better here. And I would have rather seen 3 of these bays, the 2 Spriggans and Phoenix, use black, than have every single one use gold, right? Obviously, the Spriggans would still have it anyway, but, Phoenix at least could have been different there, but, no. Outside of that, though, okay, blue. Well, they didn't put blue on Burst Spriggan, but there's, blue on Astral, and that's fine. But Excalibur and Zest also use blue, and again, it's the same type of blue here, almost. It's a little bit darker on, I guess it's a decent bit darker on Xiphoid, but it's not like crazy. My camera is definitely making it look a little darker, but yeah. But again, we don't need blue on every bay. Like, the fact that half of these bays are using blue, and again, it's not like a crazy different shade or anything, we're just talking about one being a little bit lighter. Why not have one be, a very, like, why not have made this even darker or something? And made this one a bit lighter. You could have definitely done some stuff with that. Again, they dug themselves into a hole here, but yeah. I guess, like, silvers are used decently here. You got some, actually, it's on, like, 4 of the bays. I mean, like, I think you can kind of see what I mean, is that these all have way, way too similar color schemes. Phoenix, again, gets off the best, but if you remove Phoenix and just look at these 5, it's just like, they all just look way, way too similar. Like, come on, they didn't all need to be like this. And I think is actually the funniest thing here is when you flip them over to look at the drivers. Yeah, they're all, aside from Xiphoid. Well, Xiphoid also has the red on the disc and then like the blue driver. This is definitely the most unique. It's kind of like the knight in that aspect for red, but do I even need to say anything? I don't think I do. Let's just take out Xiphoid and focus on these 5 for now. These are all a type of red. Spriggan, okay, these are darker red, same type, it's fair, right? Because it's Spriggan, but look at these 3. Achilles, Hyperion, and Phoenix. This is like a more, I guess this is opaque, but still. These are like the same exact translucent red almost. Well, a little bit of like yellowish rubber here, but like... But even this opaque one, it kind of matches with these. Why are why are half of the red bays having a very, very similar colored driver, and they're not even from the same line? Would it have killed them to just make a driver that's a little different? I mean, Revive Phoenix had a black driver. It had a little bit of red for the rubber, but still, it didn't need red for Metal Universe. Achilles... And even if these 2 had similar reds, they could have maybe made this one a little bit different. I mean, Dimension was a darker red. They maybe could have gone, maybe not as dark as Astral or Burst. We're going to maybe a little bit of a darker red and opaque. This maybe could have just been like this, stayed as is with the translucent. But like, why are there so many? It's ridiculous. I just think that looking at how much all the red bays in DB, it just really kind of, I think, exemplifies what I mean by they just are not using enough colors. But also they just aren't using enough, like, there are types of colors. Okay, at least for the drivers, 2 of them were very dark. It's different. But why not just have a color that isn't red? We don't need red layers with red drivers every time. Again, looking at basic layers, they had a lot of these basic different colored drivers from their layers, which was cool. We still see this now, but why was it such a problem with these red bays? Now let's get into black. Black, okay. This one is a little bit strange as well, because 3 of the 5 are Belial. This line's actually not too bad overall, I will say right now. Actually, let me do like this. But the fact that we have 3 Belials makes it immediately kind of unfortunate. I don't think we really ever needed to have bays, take up so much of the line, but we did. Okay, so with Belial, right? I mean, we have black, gold for all of them. I mean, a little bit of blue on this one. Dangerous and Divine started using red, and this is the original core for Divine, but it's definitely meant to have Belial 3. It just makes it match even more with the other ones, which makes more sense, honestly, but yeah, I mean, I guess this one's a little bit more different, which is cool, but at the same time, we shouldn't need a weirdly recolored core to make a bay look a little bit more different than the others. That's just me, though. I think Roar Bahamut does a pretty good job at being different, because it uses black, but it has purple, has like a seafoam, a little bit of blue, magenta. Yeah, no, it looks... Yeah, and get the teal. Like, it just looks pretty good, right? This is definitely a pretty good different, like, bay, right? And then even Barricade's like a translucent black, also has purple, some magenta, gold, and I think it's different enough from Roar, right? They both use like purples and similar color schemes in a way, but they use it differently enough to where I think, yeah, it's fine. And I think that these bays aren't too bad at the layers. Again, having 3 Belials is just kind of unfortunate, but like, I get why they have similar color schemes. I think these two are different enough. So they didn't do too bad here, but that's for the layers. But when you flip them over to look at their drivers, did they all need to be like this? Did they all, like, I know that this is a dark purple, but it's very, very dark. Couldn't they have made it a lighter purple? And this is like, I guess, more of a, I guess, dark gray-ish kind of color. But the fact that, like, okay, Belial, they already are like all black. We didn't need something similar here for a moment on Roar Bahamut, and we definitely didn't need a super dark purple to make it almost indistinguishable on Barricade Lucifer. You could have done more here. The Belials are one thing. This should not have been black. This should have been lighter. Like, this just looks so boring. Like, why are they all so similarly colored? I guess this one wasn't as bad, definitely, but like, it was still... It still definitely is a bit of an issue, I think, overall. Alright, next up, let's get to white. This is a weird one. Okay, so with white. They all use, like, this pearlescent white, okay? I mentioned this earlier with, Unicorn and Chaos in the, single layers, but Unicorn was kind of more of a standard, like, matte white, while the Chaos, at least the, like, official combo, not, I guess, it's debatable, like, the re-release, the full combo, I guess I should say, that one used the pearlescent white. These all use pearlescent white. Why not have one of them be more of a matte white or something? Could have been a cool design choice. I know some people might debate Savior Purchase being a mainline bay, but, like, come on, it is. But, yeah, like, these all, like, did they need to be the exact same white? Couldn't they have, like, made one, at least one of them, like, a matte white? I don't know, that's just me. Longinus gets off the best here by using blue, but they all use blue in some way, and it's a very similar blue as well, like, come on. Drivers are all different, though. Thumbs up for me, and my camera's too zoomed in to do that, okay. But still, like, underneath here, there's a lot of blue on Gatling, as well. And then you get the blue on Savior, not as much, though. Also blue on the core, and then blue here. Didn't need it all, but yeah. And then gold, on both of these, because of course there's gold. At least there's not on Longinus, that's actually nice. And then, kind of got this, like, yellow-orange color. This is really, really nice, and I actually like Savior Perseus a lot for doing that. That, they gave it a color that you don't really see ever for the rubber. That's cool. Why couldn't, like, this wasn't a crazy color design. Like, this shouldn't have been such a difficult task. Why are we just now finally getting something like this? We could have gotten more yellow oranges for a lot of things. Like, why is it just kind of being introduced now? And, like, again, this, like, Gatling Dragon just uses blues, reds, golds, white. Like, this is just kind of a culmination of a lot of colors that are overused. Why not give it something else? Like, it's a rainbow bay. Why not? Like, I know that the stickers, you could argue, make it better, but still, like, why not just, like, use other colors that aren't the same that every other bay uses? It's a rainbow bay. You could get away with that. You didn't have to pick the exact colors that everything else uses. It could have been a little more unique, These aren't as bad either. I think the blue, well, the red was definitely the worst. Blue is also bad, but I think that the blacks and whites are, like, not as bad. But they still have some problems. So, now we have the last 5 bays. These actually are different. So let's just start off with Greatest Raphael. Okay? Greatest Raphael. This one is a weird case, because it is kind of a blackish white. It's like clear, basically, with some black. But it just, it's like, okay, yeah, black, I guess, clear / white, or silver, whatever you want to say. Red, gold. Come on. It definitely does better, and, it looks a little bit more unique, but why? Couldn't they have done, like, anything else? Couldn't they have made this, like, green or something? Like, the eyes are green, could have made, like, these green, just not use red again. It's not that big of a deal. It still looks pretty good overall. But I just mean the color scheme. They could have maybe done a little bit something else, like anything else would have been nice, but this isn't bad though. Next up, Vanish Fafnir. Fafnir is a pretty unique color. This isn't really like a normal gold. And hey, they use a nice dark blue, which is cool. You do have gold on the core, but okay, I would prefer if they didn't, but hey, it's just used on the core, not a ton. I mean, still kind of sucks, but like, it's not, I guess it is kind of unfortunate. I mean, it's just more gold that we didn't really need. They could have done a different color, but it's just a little bit. Every other color on here is fine, so not as big of a deal. You got the teal on the here a little bit. You got green, which is cool. You got orange. It's a pretty unique bay, I would say. Definitely different than the others. Cyclone Ragnarok, you got a little bit of blue, but it's at least like a lightish blue, kind of. You got gold, but it's not as much. A little bit of silver, but like, okay, it's mainly orange. You got the yellow underneath as well. It does use blue, but it's at least not the same normal blue that we always get. This at least feels like pretty unique, I would say. It's pretty good. Astral Hello Kitty. You could have definitely paired this into the red section, but I don't think this is really red. I mean, it kind of is, I guess, but yeah, they use some red here, but it's like a very, very light red. And I guess a little bit more normal red underneath, but it still feels a little different. Got some blue, but this isn't exactly a normal blue. It's a little bit lighter. The driver's also a bit lighter of a blue. Gold, but it's on the disc, so gold metal. It's not bad. There's white, but I think they use white well here. Guess what? It's more of a matte white. It's not a pearlescent white. Why couldn't we have not gotten more of this on another bay at least? Like Savior Perseus maybe, since like Dragon and Longinus were already established. I don't know. It's just me though. This is a good bay. Even if you want to say it's red, and it uses like blues and whites, which are kind of overused, and also gold, it does it well. It doesn't use the same exact way. It doesn't use the colors in the same exact ways. The blues are different. The red, this is definitely not a normal red, right? The white is different, and they used gold for the metal, not plastic. This is a great bay right here, in terms of color design. Where was this? Like, where were these types of colors? Why could they have not used them more often? And then, in my opinion, just the best bay overall, for color design. Chain Carbius. It uses red. It's a bit of a lighter red, but that's like the only color that is on here that's like ever even overused. I guess you could maybe argue silver, but like it's not that much. And again, I get using neutral colors like, silver or white or black or whatever. They're neutral colors, I get it. And again, it's just for the chains, and again, it kind of makes sense for chains. But it uses more of a greenish color, and the core is different than this, which is nice. You got kind of this purple-ish, magenta-ish color, the green driver. It stands out, it's not like every other bay. It doesn't use gold. This is like one of the like 2 bays. No, one of 3 bays, I think. I think it's one of 3 bays that just does not use gold at all. I'm not even joking, but I guess one of 4. Okay, there are 4 bays that don't use any gold at all, right? It's literally these 4 that don't use gold. That's it. 20 of the other bays use gold. Hello Kitty uses it fine though, but still. The fact that you have a line of 24 bays, and 20 of them use gold in some capacity. Why? It's not like an overly neutral color. Like, yeah, you could throw gold on stuff, but why is it on 20 bays? That's really unnecessary. But yeah, I know this video might be like slightly messy, but I just wanted to talk about this. I don't know if people care about this at all, or if anyone agrees with me here. And I know you might say I'm stretching on some of these, but like, seriously, where were some of the colors? Why couldn't we have gotten like a prominently teal bay? Or an actual like yellow bay? Or, kind of other greens, like a lime green. I think you could have gotten maybe like a maroon, like a really, really dark red or something, to make it a little bit different. Or, just use a red bay with like any other color aside from these main few. There was definitely a lot you could have done here. Maybe make like a red and orange bay that could have been Phoenix. You could have done Oh yeah, there was no purple bays in here. I guess Lucifer kind of, but there wasn't like a proper like purple bay here. Could have done more with that. Black, you could have definitely done some better color combinations with the black. Bahamut was pretty cool. Lucifer's also cool, but like they still are kind of similar. They're different enough, but like black work with anything. Why was there not like a black and I don't know, orange or yellow bay? You could have done something with that. There's a lot of color designs that were just completely unexplored for no reason. I don't know what happened here and why colors just started to get overused so badly. But this is just something I hope to not see in Gen 4. I hope they do a little better with color design. I know, again, if you want me to make a super in-depth, going into color theory type video with every bay, I mean, I'll do it, but it'll probably take a little while, and it'd be like a 3 hour long video, so I kind of don't want to, but I will, if people actually want it, but I don't think people are going to watch this long. This is a really, really niche type of video, but I just wanted to make it just to exemplify my point. Also, one last thing. Even if the layers you can argue are different in some ways, why are there so many drivers that just repeat the layer color? Like again, why are 5 of the 6 red base using red drivers? You could have chosen something else. Anyway, that's everything I have to say. That's yeah. I don't know. It's just kind of a mess, honestly. I wish that they would have done a little, just use colors. There's a lot of colors out there. You could use more of them, different shades that are noticeably different. It's just a thought. That's all for this video. So yeah, thanks for watching, and bye bye.